In an isolated town, we are introduced to a new group of survivors giving off that creepy cult vibe. After their leader, David, gives a sermon, he talks to James about the group's food supply. Also, James is played by Troy Baker, the voice actor for Joel in the Last of Us video game. David senses James is losing faith because the last 6 months have been rough. David reassures to trust in him, and that they will make it through before they decide to go hunting for more food. Meanwhile, Ellie managed to stop the bleeding, but Joel is weakened from an infection of his wound. They are both also low on food, so Ellie decides to go hunting. We get a funny scene of Ellie tripping and falling while trying to hunt a rabbit, but eventually finds a deer and shoots it. Seems Joel's training pays off. However, the deer survives and runs away. David and James finds the dead deer and attempt to take it, but Ellie shows up and threatens to shoot them. David offers a trade. Ellie offers half the deer for medicine. David tells a reluctant James to fetch the medicine. David and Ellie take shelter from the cold, where David tries to persuade Ellie to join his group. David said he started believing in God after the apocalypse and how this group was formed. After the Pittsburgh quarantine zone collapsed, David's group kept on moving around to avoid raiders. Ellie says he's lucky to have survived, but David says he doesn't believe in luck and that everything happens for a reason. We found out the raiders Ellie and Joel encountered back at the abandoned Firefly outpost was part of David's group, and the man's name was Alec. James arrives, wanting revenge for the death of Alec, the man Joel killed, but David wishes to spare Ellie because she didn't kill him. Reluctantly, James gives Ellie the medicine and Ellie flees. Ellie returns to Joel with the penicillin and decides to inject it into his wound, which, look, I'm no medical expert, so I don't know where you're supposed to inject penicillin, but something makes me think,
that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Sensing Joel is cold, Ellie uses her body heat to warm him up. What I like about this scene is that you can see Joel slowly tilt his head towards Ellie. This is more than just Joel trying to move closer to her for warmth. I generally think Joel is comforted by how much Ellie is doing to protect him. Back at David's settlement, the group is preparing food when one of them asks what kind of meat it is. Though the answer is venison, there's an awkward moment between them.
What is it?
Venison.
So that was a f***ing lie.
David and James returns with a buck and encounter awkward silence. Seems James let it slip they found Alec's killer. Though David says he'll follow Ellie's trail in the morning, Alex's daughter says that both Joel and Ellie should die. David is upset by this and assaults her, showing his control over the group because none of them react to stop him. This is further shown when David is given a bigger portion of the food. Joel's condition improves. Ellie gives him more penicillin and feeds the horse, but discovers she was followed. Despite protests from James, David says Ellie lives, but it's okay for Joel to die. Ellie scrambles to leave, but Joel is still too weak to travel. Ellie gives him a knife to defend himself and decides to draw the men away. Despite her attempt to leave, James kills her horse and she is knocked unconscious. David stops James from killing Ellie and orders 3 men to search for Joel while the rest takes Ellie and the horse back to their settlement. One of the 3 men finds where Joel is hiding. Despite his weakened state, Joel manages to kill him. Later, Joel manages to disable the other 2 men and tortures one of them for information. The man gives up the location of the settlement. Here we see how far Joel is willing to go to find Ellie despite his weakened state, showing how much he cares about her. Back at the settlement, Ellie is held captive. David wishes to spare Ellie and tries to persuade her to join his group. When he tries to feed her, Ellie finds an ear under the table, revealing the group resulted in cannibalism in order to survive because food ran out. David claims it was a last resort, and only a handful of people in the group know the truth. David and Ellie go back and forth on the morality of what it takes to survive, and David says he's not too different from Ellie. He wishes to lead the group with Ellie as an equal, and says he will spare Joel if Ellie agrees to join. There's even a hint that David has an attraction to Ellie. Ellie doesn't buy in, and attempts to steal his keys but fails. David and James attempt to kill Ellie and use her as food, but Ellie claims she's infected. While trying to escape earlier, she bit David, so she's attempting to bluff. During the discord between David and James, because they are unsure if David is actually infected, Ellie grabs the butcher knife and kills James. As Ellie sets fire to the building, David tries to kill her and disable her. We get an uncomfortable scene with David pinning Ellie down, showing how unhinged he is. But Ellie manages to get hold of the knife again and kills him viciously. Ellie flees and Joel catches up to her. We get a tender moment between the two, and Joel even refers to Ellie as his baby girl, confirming Joel now sees Ellie as a daughter.
Okay. It's okay, baby girl.
This episode further solidifies the bond between Joel and Ellie, showing how far each will go to protect the other. Though Joel doesn't save Ellie, I liked how through the pain of his injury he pushed himself to find her and is willing to torture to find her. On the other hand, this is Ellie's coming of age moment. The innocent teenager is gone, replaced by a more mature Ellie. She had spent months seeing the true horrors of the apocalypse and is now willing to get her hands dirty for her own survival. Both Joel and Ellie now have something to fight for. They have each other, and I am curious to see how the relationship will progress in the season finale next week. Please comment below, as I'd like to hear your own thoughts about episode 8 of The Last of Us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Deviant, and thanks for watching.